everybody, and welcome back. I decided to talk a little bit about the books that I have recently been reading or have finished. So let's get into it. We've been working on it. It's been really fun. So I got a bunch of books from the library, number one, and of course I got Delicious in Dungeon book two. I read the first one, and I wasn't like super keen on the first book. It's a manga book about a group of dungeon crawlers who um it's like video game logic with the dungeon crawling basically, but they decided that since they were too poor to buy supplies that they would start eating the monsters in the dungeon, and they made friends with a dwarf who knows how to cook them. And so it's basically just them going through the various areas of the dungeon deeper and deeper down because they're trying to rescue their fallen comrade who for whatever got eaten by a dragon. So I guess the video game logic doesn't work. She pops out of there because she's in a dragon's stomach. They're going deeper and deeper into this dungeon and cooking various monsters on the way down. It is so much fun. It is so silly. At first, I didn't like it, and I thought it was a really dumb idea, and the first book didn't really catch me. But then when I saw this at the library, and I was like, let me get book two, I was already attached to the characters. I really like them. Every once in a while, you get a sick lore drop in here that's like, wait a second, what? Like in this one, the halfling, and his name's Chilchuck, I want to say. That's how you pronounce it. I don't know. But Chilchuck, he has like a bit of a uh, like every once in a while, you just get a lore drop from one of them that really draws you in. It's not just about eating monsters. And for him, he is a halfling, and halflings are really good, or at least he's really good at like unlocking things. It seems to be a character trait for them. He's very good at unlocking things and being very light on his feet, so getting around traps and things like that is no problem for him. And in this, he has a moment where we learn that he's very fearful of mimics, which are treasure chests that have monsters in them, and if you open it, it will kill you basically. And so he has been killed by multiple mimics throughout his dungeon crawling career, and he has an issue with it. Or he's had comrades who have been killed because he wasn't careful enough because of the mimics. So it just kind of shows he has a moment, and it's really good, and I really enjoyed it because I really like his character. And yeah, so anyway, needless to say, this is actually a 5-star for me because I really enjoyed that story in particular, but also the rest of it was really good. So 5-star, and they're getting closer as friends, and we just love to see it. Okay, and so 5 stars. Okay. I started this, and after the first chapter, I decided to DNF. I knew this was not for me. This is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, and oh my gosh, the first chapter kind of had me rolling my eyes anyway, but at the end of it, she makes a deal with this guy. They're called Fates or whatever. She makes a deal with this Fate, the Prince of Prince of Broken Hearts, or some, I don't know, Prince of Hearts. Maybe it's just Prince of Hearts. Anyway, she makes a deal with him so that her boyfriend doesn't marry her stepsister because she thinks her boyfriend got uh, charmed or something to marry the stepsister. Whole thing there. But his deal with her is that she has to kiss 3 other guys in order for him to save her boyfriend. And that was like it for me because I'm like, I'm just not interested in that. I don't want to read a story about a girl that, and maybe it's more, I mean, tell me in the comments, maybe you had a great time with this book. Maybe it's, if I kept reading it, it would have been better than I thought. But that was a gross premise to me, and I really don't like that. So that was a no for me. DNF'd. No problem. We're going to send this back to the library. That's why I do library books. Okay. Not a library book, but it should have been. Red Rising. I finished this. I talked a little bit about it in the last video. I finished it now. I don't like this. I do not like this. Is the most depressing read that I've read in a long time. I heard a lot of people compare it to the Hunger Games, and I guess in a way the premise is very similar with the, like I said before, it's like it's segregating people, making some people more important than other people, and children fighting each other and stuff like that. Sure, that's for real, but this was just not at all. This is nothing like the Hunger Games to me. If you like the Hunger Games, there is a chance you will hate this, okay, because I hate it. I think I gave it 3 stars, or no, I think I gave it 2 stars because one of the characters, I gave it 1 star for the premise, which is interesting, but I don't like the way it was executed. And I gave another star for one of the characters that I liked. But the problem being, like I said, I couldn't really root for Darrow. The things that he did were really grossed me out a lot of the times, and I understand that there were times when he was grossed out by what he had to do, but like it still made me feel gross, and I just found myself not able to root for him because of the things that he was doing. And the Gold Society is terrible, and that's the whole point. And the thing is I know the point of this book is that it's terrible. I know it's supposed to make you cringe, but like I thought at least there would be a hero in this, and it really didn't feel that way at all. And the main thing that really turned me off is at one point in the story there is a guy who is also a red undercover. I don't know if he was involved with the same people that got Darrow as a red undercover, but he ends up assaulting a bunch of women, and his little cronies also assault a bunch of women um, in the worst way. Okay, he violates them. Okay, and it's not seen as a good thing; it's seen as a bad thing. He's seen as a horrible person, and so is everybody associated with him. However, after that happens, and this one guy is punished for it, so kudos to that. But after that happens, and none of his other cronies are punished with him. So, and by punishment I mean capital punishment, but none of his other cronies are punished with him, and the women have to continue to work around their assaulters. Are you kidding me? Like, only a man would write a book like this. I genuinely think so. There's no way. I don't care what your society, post-apocalyptic, dystopian future is. There is no way you are going to force a woman to continue to work around her assaulter and she's going to be fine with it. There is just no freaking way. And then later on it happens again where this girl doesn't get assaulted, but she almost gets assaulted, right? And she ends up getting rescued by another girl, which is great. But like, she's like, no, I don't want to press charges, whatever. And I'm like, press charges, press freaking charges. I'm sorry. Like, that really, I understand that the point of this book is that it's supposed to be grotesque. Well, guess what? He did that. If you want to read a grotesque, depressing book, right here, it's right here for you. Like, I just don't know what else to say about it other than it was disgusting for me. And I will be giving this away to my library as well, because I'm never going to read it again. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of things I don't like. I don't like the language. I don't like the humor. I don't like, again, a lot of it's just very grotesque and it's very masculine. And I don't mind male writers. I really don't. Male authors, I genuinely, I mean, J.R. Tolkien is one of my favorites. C.S. Lewis is one of my favorites. Even I have other books written. Anyway, I mean, I like male authors. Okay. Ian Colfer, I don't know, and yeah, Peterson, he's great. Like, there's a lot of authors that are men that I like. This guy I do not like. I do not like his style, and the thing is I don't have to. So, 2 stars for me. I wouldn't suggest it unless you really don't mind a depressing read. Again, there are interesting things in here, but it's not enough for me to ever engage with it again. So that's that. Okay. And then to my other recently finished book, I finished Wings of Starlight. I can't get over the back. Mallory looks so good. Okay. I didn't like this. Okay. I liked some parts of it. It's probably a 3 star. So I'm not gonna say that I hated it by any means, but it was not at all what I wanted. Okay. I have watched, I know I'm 30. Okay, whatever. I'm wearing my Disney t-shirt right now. Disney princess. Um, I'm a little bit of a Disney adult, but I'm not the cringy Disney adult, I promise. I just like to watch movies and mind my own business, you know what I'm saying? And read silly books. But here's the thing. Okay, so I'll tell you, if you've never seen The Secret of the Wings, The Secret of the Wings is where their story comes into play. Which is kind of funny because it cancels out like the first movie. The first movie, there's actually a representative from the Winter Woods that follows Clarion around the whole time, who's a woman, and that doesn't exist in any of the other films. So it's kind of funny how they were just like, I'm just kidding, rewrites, because the whole point is that like the Winter Woods is kind of cut off from the warm seasons because of Pixie Hollow, because winter fairies can't come into the warm seasons or their wings melt and break, and warm season fairies can't go into the winter or because their wings turn brittle and they break. So like there's this rule that was instilled or put in place by Clarion that no one can pass through. And she tells Tinkerbell this story because Tinkerbell in the movie, her sister is actually a winter fairy. By accident, they got switched around. Whatever they ended up in separate areas. Okay, so her sister's a winter fairy, and she finds this out, and she goes over there, and when she tries to reconnect with her sister's wing almost breaks. Tinkerbell's wing actually does break at one point, but never mind, it gets fixed. But she asks Clarion, because she finds out from Mallory, my man's, okay, that he's not the one who set the rule into place that it was forbidden to cross over. It was Clarion, Queen Clarion, that set the rule into place, which makes more sense because she's like literally the reigning queen of Pixie Hollow. He's only a warden of the Winter Woods or a lord of the woods or whatever they call him. So he doesn't have as much say as she has. Okay, so it makes sense that she's the one who set the rule into place. But she explains why the rule was set into place by explaining that two fairies fell in love and they crossed over the border to hang out with each other, right? And they were in love with each other. But then it turns out that they discovered that when that happens, one of the wings breaks, okay? And then it was horrible and sad. And then they decided that it would never happen again, and they closed the border, and that's why people are forbidden to go over. So from that story, I didn't tell it perfectly, not word for word, okay? I don't know it word for word, but my impression, having recently rewatched it, okay, before I read this, is that they didn't necessarily know what would happen to the fairy wings until after the incident happened, which obviously happened to Mallory. Mallory's wing breaks. Okay. We find that out later. And so, like, to me, it seemed like it was their romance that was when it was discovered that, like, sure, they probably knew that winter fairies got too hot over here and they couldn't hang out for too long, and like warm fairies got too cold when they hung out in winter for too long. Like that was probably given, but it seemed to me like they actually learned that wings could break in that period of time when she was younger and in love with Mallory. Okay, but in the book, it's already been established that this is something that can happen and everybody knows it. And that's why they don't hang out in the winter woods and vice versa. They know that wings can break. And I was just kind of like, if we already know that, then where's the, the horror, the tragedy, right? Like this is supposed to be a romantic tragedy. And I just really wanted that. But I really wanted it to be a light-hearted romantic tragedy, if you will, like lighthearted at the beginning and then tragic at the end. Okay. So how I envisioned it, and I know this is just me, okay, it doesn't matter, but how I envisioned it was that they had a really sweet and lighthearted romance before Queen Clarion really took over, because that's what's happening here. She is the princess right now. She's in training under the current queen. Perfect. Love it. But then like I wanted more of a lighthearted back and forth. Like I understand him not being able to come over to the warm seasons and her spending times in the winter season, but like I wanted it to be much more lighthearted. And they do have lighthearted moments, but it just there's so much heaviness in this book because like the whole thing is that there's these nightmares that have escaped from their prison, which is in the winter woods. Okay, and so they're trying to solve how to save all the fairies from these nightmares, and also they're falling in love at the same time, which you would think is adorable, but it's just I don't know if I just don't like the writing, but it just felt so heavy and so boring at times, and then she has this other little like side plot romance with Clarion's friends, and I hated that too. I'm like, Artemis and Petra are the most unnecessary characters I've ever seen. Like they have their moments, like near the end it gets really good, but like, oh my gosh, when I tell you, so much of this book is just this back and forth, like Clarion trying to find ways to escape to go to the winter woods the whole time. That's like all it is. And I'm just like, we didn't need to have a book that was like 400 pages to tell that story. We really didn't. It could have been way shorter, number one. Number two, the nightmares, I mean, I'm fine with there being some sort of serious thing happening, but I almost would have preferred if that was like on the, if it was a much lighter thing that they were dealing with, or it was just her dealing with her impending coronation, and she's just over here dallying around having a little bit of romance with Mallory. I would have liked that, and then they find out, oh no, wings break when you hang out too long on one side. Okay, like the wing breaking in this was so not what it should have been. I'm so sorry. It should have been apocalyptic tragedy, okay? It should have been a horror show, okay? And it was like, sure, they were sad about it, but he's just like, yeah, I would do this over and over again for you. And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, but like this should have been a moment, dude, and it just wasn't. And I think it's just because I had different expectations, which is my own fault. Okay, I understand that. It's not her fault, it's my fault. But it wasn't what I wanted, not even close. And on top of that, the end felt so contradictory because she's having her coronation, right? And she's like, we're going to unite winter and the warm seasons. We're all going to work together, which is true. Like in the movies, they work together. Like the Tinkers make like the Tinker Fairies make like things for the Winter Fairies to carry stuff. Like they do work together. Okay. So them being united, yeah, sure, whatever. That's fine. That's fine. But then in the same breath, she's like, but also you're all forbidden to cross the border, so never do that again. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess it had to happen because she does forbid them, but like it's so stupid. I'm so sorry. It just wasn't. I just feel like she could have, instead of being like, we're all gonna work together and be friends, but also you can't see each other, don't hang out together. Like there was just a better way to put it. It could have been just like, we are all Pixie Hollow and we're gonna continue things as usual, but because it is so dangerous, because we have learned that wings can break, we're not doing that. Like it makes more sense for them to have learned in that instance with Mallory that wings break, and instead of this, you know what I mean? And I think the other issue, the reason why Mallory's wing breaking was not what it should have been for me, is because it was focused on Clarion. Like she was injured at the time. She had like almost lost her magic and she was dying and she was like freezing, right? So he risked his life by flying over into the warm seasons to get her help, okay? Which, romantic, sure, but then his wing breaking, literally we don't even see it happen. Like she sees like his wings are like dripping like ice, but that's all she sees. We don't see it happen. He is not like, no, she, there's no like moment of like, oh my gosh, I ah, we're seeing the wing break like in the movie. Like I'm sorry, I'm going back to the movie, but in the movie when Tinkerbell's wing breaks, or when I forget what her sister's name is, Periwinkle. Hey, I got it back. When Periwinkle's wing melts, it is like a moment of shock and horror, okay? It is like, oh my gosh, we don't get that with Mallory. That should have been the primary concern. Like, for whatever reason, contrive a way for him to go over into the warm season and get stuck there. I would love that. And then his wing breaks, okay? And then let it be all about him. It should have been all about him in that moment and her trying to get him back to the winter, okay? Like that's what it should have been, and it was not, okay? Because like that is the moment. And also like, and that should have incited her for the forbidding of the crossing over right away. Like, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I don't need to keep talking about this because it's clearly I have a lot of feelings about it, because this is, I'm sorry, that was my favorite um Tinkerbell movie. And there's so much potential. This book had so much potential and it failed on so many counts. I'm still giving it a 3-star because it wasn't the worst, and we still had Mallory and Clarion and they smooched and it was cute. But like it was so heavy and it should have been so light and sweet, at least at the beginning, instead of being about like an emergency situation. I wanted just like frolicking in the woods. Like we're talking like Luthien and Beren and Luthien from Tolkien. That's the vibe. If you've read it, they're like in the woods and she's singing and he's following her through the woods and he's just like enamored. Okay, like that was the vibe that I was feeling. And from the movie, the way Clarion talked about their romance and how it was kind of forbidden romance. Come on. There was so much potential. And we wasted it. And we added nonsense with her, with the side characters. I don't care about Petra and Artemis. I could not care less. Literally, if you took them out of the story, nothing would matter. And also Elvina, the queen, the current reigning queen until she takes over, mean. I get it. She's serious, but she was like mean and grouchy, and she never really gave any like serious answer. Like she's like, "Here, I'm going to tell you something important," and then tells her like the most vague thing you've ever heard in your life, and you're like, "What am I supposed to get from that?" And Clarion's like, "Oh, everything makes sense now," and I'm like, "What did you learn that I didn't learn?" So anyway, I think that's enough. This is a 3-star. It's fine. I would personally get it from the library. I would not purchase this, but this is my favorite. This is my favorite part of this book. I'm sorry, Mallory is one of those. I love Mallory and Clarion. They're my favorite characters. Okay, I just feel like I could write better fan fiction. I'm sorry. I hate to say it. Okay. And then I recently started this book, which is nonfiction, What About Me by Joyce Meyer. This is a book about get out of your own way and discover the power of an unselfish life. And this book has been speaking to me. Let me tell you, because I know, and maybe you also know, I can get in my own head a lot about my own feelings, my own thoughts, my own this and that. And we're human. We're all selfish by nature. Let's just be honest. We have unselfish moments, but we're always thinking about ourselves. And this book is really helping me to turn that around and really think about God more and what is his will for me, what does he want for me, and also like thinking about others before I think about myself. Like, if I'm sitting here and like, I don't know, some chore isn't done and I'm like waiting for my family to get home or whatever, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to leave this in the sink for them or whatever, or I'm going to leave this over here for them to do. No, let me pick it up, let me do it, let me take the step forward instead of just thinking about myself. And that's a small thing. There's so much bigger things that I want to work on in myself. But this book is really highlighting a lot of things and I love it. And, just putting the word of God first and foremost, letting the Holy Spirit work in my heart and just, work in me. So important. And I really want that to happen. And lately it feels like my brain is just like fried. So I'm trying to do more things and just kind of be more focused on the word and what God wants for me. And this book I think is really highlighting some things that I needed to hear, and I love that. So I would definitely highly recommend. I'm like 50 pages in or so, but I highly recommend this book. It has already really highlighted some things that I needed to hear, and I'm sure it could do the same for you. Oh my goodness, so much talking. I got way too heated about that. And lastly, I started Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard. I literally am only 2 chapters in, but the prologue was insane. What happened? Okay, so oh, my cats are doing something. I just heard some scratching. It's my cats. It's fine. So basically, it starts off with like a bunch of companions of the realm, is what they call themselves. A bunch of knights from different places all around. Some of them are these figures called elders, which are immortal beings. Some of them are just humans and knights and whatever. And we follow a squire. We're kind of in his head a little bit. I mean, it's not first person, but we're in his head. And um his name's Arden, I think. Let me double check that because Andry, sorry, Arden, no, Andry. And Andry is the squire for a particular night, and they're going to stop this bad chap, that's causing problems. They have the literal prince with them, heir apparent to some sort of throne, some special place, I don't know, whatever. His name is Corland or something like that. I don't, whatever. It starts with Cor, Cor. And he's like, his brother is coming to contest his throne, I guess. And it's just his brother and Taristan and this wizard that is with him. And they're like, there's like 13 of us against 2 of them. What's the problem? Like, no big deal. We're some big guys with some big swords and big ladies with big axes. So, like, no problem. You know what I'm saying? So they're going, and Andrew is like waiting back because he's the squire, right? He's just there. He's just there. And then, Tarstan comes out. He's like, I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna take this. And there's something called the spindle, and for some reason they've tolled a bell on the spindle, and I think it opens like the path to different realms. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that because I didn't really explain what the spindle was about. But they do that, and then this wizard comes out, and then he ends up summoning a bunch of zombies, bro. Zombies everywhere, pouring out of this temple or whatever, where the spindle is, which opens realms or something. Anyway, but they're pouring out, and suddenly the knights are like overwhelmed. They're like, "What the frick we do?" And then Taristan takes off his helmet, bro. He takes off his helmet. He's identical to the prince. He's identical. Nothing. Their faces perfectly symmetrical, identical to each other. And then Taristan and the prince start battling it out. And the zombies are like keeping a circle around them, but they're attacking everybody else. Like, they're not attacking the prince and Taristan, but they're attacking everybody else. And these guys, these legendary warriors, are going down one by one as zombies are like like World War Z flowing over them. Whoa, nasty, nasty. And Andrew is like on the hillside watching all this in horror. Okay, he's like, I should go down there and do something, but he's like, but I shouldn't. And he actually starts to at one point, but then his knight Galland is like, absolutely not. Go, run, Andrew, run. And so Andrew gets on a horse and he's like, we got to get out of here because literally there's like no one left. There's one dude and the two brothers still fighting. Okay, the twins, they are still going at it. And this guy finally gets in there. And at that point, the prince actually right through Tarstan, okay, stab him, stab. And the wizard is like, oh no. But then dude is like, ha ha ha, actually, I'm fine. Tarstan gets himself back up and he says, like, I don't serve your lowercase g gods, but I serve he who waits or something, which kind of reminded me of Voldemort, he who shall not be named. So Voldemort, he apparently works for Voldemort. And since we know Voldemort's kind of a demon, probably the same vibe. Okay. So for whatever reason, he is invincible and he gets back up and he stabs the prince. And poor little guy, he is a normal person and he goes down. And he's not possessed by demons or whatever. And he goes down. And there's one last knight there, and he, with all that he can, tries to battle it out. But the only thing that he can do is the prince's sword, which is a spindle blade, seems important, is left behind. Dude grabs the sword and chucks it towards Andrew. And Andrew, taken off on a horse, down the hill, goes, gets the sword, and books it out of there. That sword must be important. Don't ask me because they haven't explained it yet, but must be important. So he gets out of there, but everybody is dead, and including the prince and Tarstan. It looks exactly like the prince, so I'm sure that's not a good thing. And he's got a wizard still, and a lot of zombies, and maybe opened a path to somewhere that's not good, wherever zombies come from. So it was quite the opening story, okay? It's quite the prologue. And then we go somewhere else entirely and we're following this girl named Corianne and her mother is a ship captain and it seems a little bit like they're a little bit piratey, but on the down low, if you will. And, she admires her mother and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't that interesting. That chapter was, compared to the first prologue, not that interesting, but it sets up who Corianne is anyway. And that, she doesn't really have any interest in anything except she wants to sail the seas. Okay. And then the next chapter is titled Andrew. So we're going to be finding out more about Andrew. I can't wait. But this is a huge book, so it's going to take me a long time to get through it. But it's already caught my interest. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Hopefully it keeps being interesting and I don't have to DNF because lately I have been DNFing. I am tired, okay? But I also don't want to waste my time. So if something really seems like it's unappealing, I am going to DNF. Like that, baby. Which maybe I should have done with this. No, I'm just kidding. No, I wanted to see how this ended because the whole point was the end was supposed to be good, okay? And it wasn't. But that's okay. We let it slide. Dreams are just dreams, dude. And if you want to write a story, if you want a story, a fan fiction to be good, if you want it to end up like how it was in your head because that's how you perceived it when you heard the story in the movie, when you heard her tell the story, just write it yourself. That's what it comes down to. Don't put your hopes on someone else to write it for you. They're not going to do it. They're going to put in nonsense and shenanigans and characters that don't matter. You know what I mean? That's what's going to happen. Anyway, so yeah, we're working on this. This is going to be the big one. And What About Me by Joyce Meyer. We're working on those two. I still have The Queen Will Betray You by Sarah Henin, which I started, but I was just not in the mood for it. So I decided to skip over to Realmbreaker instead. We're gonna see if we can get through that. And I still also have that historical fiction book, which I forget the name of at the moment. It's over on the other side of my room, so I can't see it. But I still have that one, which I will probably read next because I need something different outside of fantasy. I've been reading a lot of fantasy. I need some historical fiction in my life. So yeah, what are you guys reading right now? What are the vibes? What are we doing? Sci-fi? Are we doing dystopia? Are we doing fantasy? Are we doing nonfiction? What are we doing? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know what you think of the books that I read. What is your opinion? Did you really like Wings of Starlight? Was it everything you dreamed of? Do you really like Red Rising? Do you like the gritty, horrifying story that is? What about Once Upon a Broken Heart? Do you like that story? Tell me why I should read it and why I should want to read about a girl who's kissing a bunch of other guys to get her boyfriend back. Does that not seem backwards? Okay, anyway. And do you like Realmbreaker? No spoilers, but do you like Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard? I'm so curious. What about Delicious in Dungeon? Do you like that manga? Do you like other manga? Tell me more. Tell me your favorite so I can check it out. Maybe. I don't make any guarantees with manga because sometimes manga is really weird. So I'm like, but this one's really fun. So anyway, I'm going to close it up with that. Thank you guys for listening. Just remember that I love you and Jesus loves you way more. And I hope you have a great day. All right. Bye.